Hey, so the real intro will start here in a little bit, but I needed to clear something up because you might have noticed that this podcast is pretty short. It might be shorter than last week's podcast. And I'm not making the podcasts short on purpose. Last week, there wasn't really much to talk about. This week, there's a lot to talk about. But, and you're going to hear this later on in the podcast, and you'll see how defeated I am when this happened. I recorded this podcast for an hour on mute. That is not a joke. I went through all of the viewer questions. I went through a majority of the topics because I think I only get to like a couple of topics before I had to stop recording for a little bit and then what I thought was recording again for an hour. And yeah, you will hear it at one point in this podcast later on if you keep listening to everything. I am just utterly defeated and talk about the whole situation on what happened. And I wanted to make that clear. Not trying to make this podcast shorter. And also, viewer questions. I discuss it later on in the podcast. But yeah, that's why this podcast is extremely short. Is because I recorded for an hour and I just couldn't do another hour. Like there's just no way. Like my points and everything that I said, repeating them just would have sucked. So yeah, just giving that heads up. Now let's get on to the real intro. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly podcast. This is episode 226 in year 5, and we're opening this podcast with a correction, or maybe it's an update, because I think a correction is when you get information wrong, or yeah, I think an update is proper, because last week, if you didn't see last week's podcast, which, by the way, super short podcast, and it seems like people are like, I'm not watching that one because it's so short. But anyways, it had a story with Margot Robbie in it, talking about possibly moving on from Harley Quinn. And that has been updated today, at least by James Gunn. Margot Robbie was talking about how she's always said Harley should be somebody that can be played by multiple people, yada, yada. And, some people could take that as like, oh, maybe she's thinking about moving on. I've always thought that, Margot Robbie would stay around playing Harley for a bit because she was so adamant about doing the Ivy story. And I think she probably still wants to see that done. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But James Gunn has come out on Threads and spoken out about the whole Margot Robbie situation, where he said, I haven't talked to Margot about Harley for a long time, but I would love to work with her again as Harley or as someone else. There are no plans at this time for anyone else to play Harley. I mean, other than Todd's movie and other animated shows. So, there you have it right there from James Gunn. Remember, this is the ultimate source for DCU news. Nobody at the moment is, there are no plans to replace Harley right now. I should say replace Margot Robbie as Harley. So I think that's good. So I think this goes down to if Margot Robbie wants to continue playing Harley, she will continue playing Harley. And if I'm not mistaken, before, we got this whole, DCEU news, or like before, when the DCEU still existed, James Gunn, I want to say, said he wrote a new project for Margot Robbie. So I'm curious on what that was, or if she was going to be a part of, Peacemaker or maybe Waller, something along those lines. But I do think that he and her will probably work together again, and I'm excited. I really hope she comes back as Harley. I thought she was amazing. I want to see her do more in the space, especially if it's going to be like new and amazing stuff. What I'm hoping is that, she will hopefully see Superman Legacy or see a lot of the new DC shows and be like, wow, they're actually making really good movies, because that's what we're hoping, because that's what James Gunn says, right? He says, like, story matters first, and we're going to try to make the best movies, and, we're not going to just throw cameos in there for the sake of building a universe. So you assume that we're going to start making good movies out of these films, so hopefully Margot will see that and be like, oh, I could probably tell some really good stories with Harley now, and we should do that. And so I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. But I'm excited to hear James Gunn actually come out and, fucking put his dick on the table and be like, there are no plans to fucking recast Harley right now. Because we've had all this speculation of like, oh, is Gal Gadot going to get recast? Is so-and-so going to get recast? Are we going to get a new Batman? We're going to, there's been so much of that. This is blatant, like, there's no plans. So, we'll see what happens. Doesn't mean he can't change it I mean, he did say I'd be down for her to play Harley or someone else. So it kind of sounds like it's up to Margot at this point. So hoping she decides to come back as Harley, and we'll go from there. But that's something I just wanted to update because I know that we covered it last week. I like to update news, in case there is something new. I don't like to keep misinformation out there, which none of it was technically misinformation. It came from Margot, but there's been an update, so I wanted to provide that. We try to do that here on the podcast. Anyways, moving on. There's a lot of James Gunn centric news happening today. So the next one is this was just a random. Everything happens on Threads now. I think James Gunn has just moved away from Twitter, which doesn't surprise me because today, by the way, I don't want to say doom scrolling, but I have been just terminally online lately, and I'm noticing it. I'm just yo, I need to fucking get some shit off my phone, or I don't know. It's weird, but I'm just constantly scrolling, and I'm catching myself doing it a lot. But this morning, when I was in one of those trances of just fucking scrolling, I had so much political right-wing bullshit on my timeline on Twitter, and I'm dude, I don't even follow anybody like this. Where is this shit coming from? And so I think I see why people are starting to leave in droves. Also, the bot problem is getting insane. I block so many people daily because they're just subscribe to my OnlyFans. Mind the way, I love OnlyFans. I have no problem with OnlyFans. But I know it's bots promoting random profiles of girls that are probably don't even exist, or it's stolen content. And then there's all this every time there's a meme or something crazy happening news-wise, there's a billion bots that are promoting buy the shirt here. That coach Nick Saban from Alabama just retired. I went and saw a news article about it. Under it, the first 5 tweets were buy the shirt here, Nick Saban shirt, championship shirt. I'm just dude, I just block any account that's promoting shit like that. Genuinely, if you're promoting crap under a news source or something like that, I block you. It's just what I do. It's so annoying. But I get why people are leaving Twitter. But I'm also going to say, I don't have Threads anymore. I have an account. I just don't use it. But Instagram pushes Threads in the feed, and Threads looks just as bad. I'm seeing bullshit on there all the time. So anyway, that's my social media rant of the day. Anyways, this was on Threads. Somebody asked, this free person said, will Legacy be the only DCU project to enter production this year? And James Gunn just answers, nope. So Superman Legacy and something else is going to go into production. I would be shocked if it's Batman or something big like that. It's not going to be Batman. I think Batman goes into production next year. I think we will have the cast revealed this year. I would be so shocked if Batman Brave and the Bold goes into production this year. Maybe late December, but you would be saying that you have a script already. We already have the director, right? But you don't even have the cast. So you got to make sure that they don't have other projects going. I don't know. I would be shocked if they even. Last time we heard, James Gunn wasn't even looking into characters, looking into actors for Batman. He said it was a long way off. So I think I totally lost the thing that I just had. But my dog's going crazy. Okay. Obviously, huge tonal change in podcasts. Nothing crazy happened, by the way, because I know I just said my dog's going crazy. It's not oh my God, freaking somebody crashed into my house and it got on fire and everything. It's nothing like that. Obviously you might be able to hear my voice. So here's what happened. For about the last hour, I've been recording the podcast on mute. I went through the whole fucking podcast. I recorded everything. I recorded the remaining topics I have. I finished off the topic that I was talking about right before my dog went crazy. I went through all of the viewer questions. I had started reviewing the comics. And I needed to take a break. I needed to drink some water. I went for an hour straight. And I was just bro, yeah, fucking just hitting all the points. I had the energy, I had everything. And then I stopped recording and I was like, why is the audio line not have waves? That doesn't make any sense. And I look over to my fucking XLR mic setup and it's red. And that means my fucking mic was muted the whole fucking time. And just some insight, since some of you don't see how I record the podcast. I don't record with the headset on. I know a lot of people do that professionally, so you can like hear yourself or whatever. It fucks me up, like when I'm recording, to hear myself. I don't like it. I just need, like, that's why I'd prefer if somebody's just watching the audio waves and they're like, oh yeah, it's recording. That's good. When I would record a Clay would be, he'd be, I can't hear you. And then I would know if there's an audio problem. Doesn't happen when I'm recording by myself. I usually just notice like, oh yeah, all the lights are good. I'll hit record and then I'll test the audio or whatever. That didn't happen. Holy shit. I just recorded for like an hour straight and my voice is like shot too. Like, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. Besides the tonal change of just being like not distraught's the wrong word, but being defeated. Because like I've done this multiple times, like when I've recorded like whole YouTube videos with my mic off, and it fucking sucks. So here's what I'm gonna do. If you had viewer questions this week, which is funny because we had some jokes happening in the Discord, if you're listening to this and you had a viewer question and it doesn't get answered this week, put that same question in the comments and I'll just answer a shitload of questions next week, because I just can't. Every answer I would give right now would just be boring and fake, because I'm going to try to rush through the podcast, because my voice, I don't know if you can hear it, is already shot. Like, it's already starting to like get raspy for me. I'm going to try to finish the remaining topics I had, and then I'm just going to go into reviewing the books. And I spoke about the Joker book for like 10 minutes, so I'm just going to probably do that one pretty short, and then actually review the last two that I didn't speak on. But yeah, pretty defeated. It fucking sucks. I wish there was a way to fix that. I don't really think I'm recording straight into a program, so like I don't have a backup way to do that. If I was recording this on OBS, still wouldn't have it would have still been fucked. So there's not. It's just when your mic's muted, your mic's muted. Oh, I can't believe it. Anyways, I don't even have my sources up anymore. So I'm just going to go through, I'm going to reiterate. I think I was talking about there's no plans to recast Harley Quinn. I think everybody went through that. I don't know if I talked about, I'm sorry if I'm reiterating points. It's just like, again, I'm totally lost here. I already closed out all my tabs. WB confirms canonical games for the DCU. I mentioned this. So like that has been confirmed by DC that we're going to be starting, those games are going to start going into production pretty soon. So I said that you should focus on a small group of people that aren't really well known. That way you can build them up into being movie stars in the future, or people would care about that. Also, I talked about how there's a tribute to Kevin Conroy and Arlene Sorkin in the new Suicide Squad game, which I think is pretty awesome. Let's see what else. I was talking about before my dog went crazy, I was talking about the movies that could possibly come out for 2024. I don't know if there was an article there. The article had all the list of movies. It didn't have Peacemaker 2 on it, which I thought was ridiculous. Peacemaker 2 is probably the best show idea, along with Waller, that could come out this year. But I think if a movie is going to go into production, it's going to be The Authorities, because there are people from The Authorities in Superman Legacy. So it only makes sense, if there's already actors for that movie, that they would probably make that movie next. So I think The Authorities will go into production. What else? I don't know if I talked about this, but all characters, like, so Matt Reeves, anything that Matt Reeves has done or is doing in the Batman universe, any character he wants to use or anybody wants to use, they all go through James Gunn. The only thing this doesn't count for is, like freaking, oh my God, the comics. So, so anything that Matt Reeves wants to do, he has to run it by James Gunn, and James Gunn has to approve it. So this could be a good thing, because it means James Gunn might not be like, oh, we're using that character over here, so you can't use that character. But it also means that if we do see a bunch of duplicate characters in both universes, then James Gunn's allowing that. So it's a double-edged sword. But I'm hoping he realizes that he's not doing that. And then the other thing was, David Ayer says he would like to have like a funeral for the Suicide Squad. He wishes he could have a one-off screening just to show like everybody that worked on it that this is what you actually did. You know, the studio butchered it, murdered it, but this was actually the vision, and this is your hard work and all that jazz. So I think that's all the topics. Oh my God, my friggin' whatchamacallit. Sorry, I'm just like, I can't believe I lost an hour of recording. Like, I'm just so mad. Anyways, if you're a creator and you've been through this before, you understand. This would be the point after I finish everything where I talk about viewer questions. But, yeah, I can't believe it. Again, ask your questions next week. If you have a better question, then feel free to answer that or put that in there. I legit went off on a lot of these questions, though. Like, legitimately. Dude, especially Jason Todd, you had a question about, is it childish for grown dads to own, like, Batman stuff? I went off on that question. Like, I super went off on it. Ask it again next week. I will, when I'm in a better mood, I will gladly answer all of these questions again. But we're going to move on to comics, because I'm just so defeated right now. I talked about Operation Joker and how we didn't read Chapter 13. In Chapter 14, essentially, I'm assuming in Chapter 13, since I didn't read it, Alfred showed up. And with Alfred showing up, that means, there's a connection to Bruce. And essentially, this book has Joker. There's some references, and I talked about this in the now Phantom Hour that is gone. All these books today have a reference or are connected to another book in some way, whether it's being paid tribute or whatever, or it just does something better than the original one. But in this book, Joker pays tribute to the iconic like Killing Joke that has all the ha-ha-has in the background. There's a panel that looks like that in this book. But also, they're trying to do a heist to steal money from a bank truck. And there's the scene from The Dark Knight in this, which I thought was kind of cool. But anyways, in this book, Alfred kidnaps baby Bruce because he essentially knows it's Master Bruce. So that's how the book ends, and Joker's kind of like, what the hell? And so he's maybe going to go after Alfred now. So the book's getting kind of intriguing. I'm curious on where this is going to go. Moving on to that, we have Justice Buster, which, where is my Justice Buster book? Oh, here it is. This is Justice Buster Chapter 7. If you remember on the last one, we had Robin going to the Joker character, well, the detective who we think is the Joker, wanting to try to, solve some crimes or whatever. And now, this book started off kind of crazy, because it started off with people dead. Let's see. It started off with the Joker dead, and Commissioner Gordon dead as well. And Batman had like half of his face mask ripped off, and he was like, why are you doing this? And it was Superman. Essentially, this was BVS. Like, this was legitimate BVS. Batman was having the nightmare that Superman was gonna kill people and taking over people, and he had no humanity in him. And Superman in this book is saying that Gotham is a scorch. Like, everybody here is just bad people. And Batman's like, no, there are good people here trying to do good things. And Superman's like, nah, fuck that. And essentially is going to kill Batman. But it's a nightmare. So Batman dies in his nightmare, but he wakes up in a panic. And this might be the reason why you're seeing the Justice Buster be made, because he's worried about like somebody like Superman. So I think that's kind of cool. We get, the the detective, who I think is the Joker, he, I think, is the Joker behind the mask, because there's some interesting stuff that happens here later. But we see that, he's having Dick Grayson read all of these files, and he's like, man, you're not teaching me anything. He's like, oh, no. He's like, it's important that you learn this kind of stuff. Then he stumbles upon the Wayne case, and he finds out, like, oh yeah, somebody was, killed in police custody that admitted to the Wayne murders, but I don't believe that. This is what the detective's saying. And so the detective thinks there's a real person that murdered the Waynes out there. And then we find out there's the, I guess, uncle or whatever to Dick Grayson is at the bar, and he's talking to this guy, and he's like, oh man, my old friend showed up here. You have no problem. I'm totally cool with you showing up before we even open. And then somebody else shows up, and the bartender's like, hey, we're closed. And he's like, no. He's like, I see my friend there, and I want to have a drink with him, essentially. And it's Two-Face, and he calls the guy Jay. Sorry, I had to burp there a little bit. He calls the guy Jay, and then this Jay guy says, he's like, it's Sam. So, is this uncle guy also the real Joker? Could be, because I think the uncle guy killed the Waynes. There's something wrong with him. There's something weird about him. He saw Bruce Wayne recently in a few chapters back and got all weird around him. And I think he probably knows it because he killed his parents, maybe, when he was younger or whatever. He's now called Jay. I think somebody could be, the detective guy could be masking or masquerading as the Joker while this guy's the real Joker. And because here's the thing, too. He was a clown in the circus. And he even says that. He was like, I was a clown for a while. He's like, what brought you back? The bartender was asking him that. So that could be how the Joker is created. He killed the Waynes, took over Grayson, and now is like, he's back in town, and maybe he's going to start doing some crazy shit. So very intriguing that there's a lot of like, okay, you think the Joker is the detective, but maybe he's just a detective playing the Joker mask or wearing a Joker mask, and then the real Joker is this guy that killed the Waynes and yada yada. I don't know. Two-Face just showed up. I think Justice Buster is getting really intriguing, and I'm enjoying where it's going. I think the little things that they add, we just got Deathstroke last week. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that's being added to that, and I would be, if they want to make that an anime, I would be totally down with that, because I think it would be really fun, because there's a lot of twists and turns already, and it's just been a good read, to be honest. Moving on to the last book we're going to read, or just cover, is The Outsiders. This has been a good book. This is by Jackson and Langsing. Did I get their names right finally? Langsing and Kelly. Damn it! I always get. I don't know why I always say Jackson. I always call him Jackson. But anyways, this book, just to kind of sum it down, and I think this is funny, is this book did the multiple personalities, or like, essentially, last week I was complaining about how Zdarsky has created this like multiple, like this way for all of the Batmen to communicate with each other in a parallel universe, kind of like hive mind type thing. They did it here, and it makes more sense. It's so weird that, like, because in this, we know that, freaking Batwoman and Batwing are trying to explore the paranormal. They're trying to explore what we don't know. They're going to the unknown reaches of Earth and trying to study things. Well, there's this door that opened up, and they're like, well, we should probably go into it. And so when they go into it, it sends them to Wayne Manor. And freaking Kate is like, what the fuck? Why are we here of all places? And it starts turning into, I don't want to say a fun house, but a labyrinth. Because they start going to separate areas. And like, they can hear each other, but they can't see each other. And so Batwing ends up running into all the different Batmen, all the different Bruce Waynes and stuff like that. And, they're telling him, they're like, you shouldn't be here. You're too good. Like, you definitely shouldn't be here. And, like, this place is not for, like, you're not, I don't want to say corrupted, but, like, you don't have the darkness in you. You know what I mean? And Batwoman finds a bunch of other Bat women, which I think is pretty interesting. They're like, you've shown up. Welcome. And then, they're like, you probably know why you're here, because we all, kind of know this, yada, yada. And what ends up happening is you see all of these different Batmen, and you find out that this is like a hive mind type of thing. But the reason why this makes more sense than what Zdarsky did is because they went through a portal that sent them to a weird place. Whereas Zdarsky is saying Batman created this hive mind type of thing, and he was able to connect all the different consciousness. I can believe this because there was a wacky door involved, and they got sent into a wacky door in some like weird space-time thing. So I could believe, like, I can believe multiversal stuff because, portals, and they send you through different whatever. That's not what Zdarsky did. Zdarsky somehow allowed a Batman to connect everybody in his mind. Whereas this is kind of the same concept, but it's got the wacky space door to send you to a different thing, and that's kind of the way we know everybody's connected. The crazy thing is, while this is happening, there is a like other evil dark multiverse Batman that shows up and starts fighting and killing all of these other Batmen. And they're all fighting him. And, what's happening is this dark Batman is telling, Batwing is like, you don't belong here. Don't worry, I'll take care of these guys. And he's saying how, like, the plan doesn't work, because there's always been that theory that Bruce, creates the villains. The way he does things is wrong because it's not helping anything. It's just causing more problems. And this new Dark Knight that shows up and is killing Batman ends up getting knocked out and or gets his helmet knocked off because he's wearing like not a Viking helmet, but like kind of like a Spartan type gladiator helmet kind of thing. I guess you could say it's a knight helmet too. Anyways, when it gets knocked off, it's revealed that it's Duke. So Duke Thomas becomes, in the Dark Multiverse, becomes this killer, murderous Batman, which it's the Dark Multiverse, right? So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then we get like a rehashing of, I don't know his powers. Somebody needs to go back, and he's saying that he can see the future, or I don't know, like he's able to see things because of the light or whatever. I do not know Duke's powers. I genuinely don't. I don't know what the fuck he can do. Because I feel like it's never been solidified. Like it was light powers, then his dark powers, and I don't know what he does anymore. Now he's Dark Multiverse Batman. So whatever. Anyways, as he's talking to Batwing, telling him about like, I've seen it all, I will fix it all. He gets knocked out by Batwoman, and he's telling, Batwoman is there, and she's like, we got to get out of here. And the other Batmen are like, yes, y'all need to leave. Like, trust me. Use this grappling hook, and it'll get you to where you need to go. And so they're like, we'll take care of this here. And so Batwing and Batwoman kind of like dip out, and, they're like, hey, close off that sector. We never need to go there again. And so it was pretty interesting. Somebody's writing stuff, and I think it might be Drummer. I don't know if this is Drummer's notes or whatever, or if this was notes from the Batman or whatever. But I think it is from Drummer. But they were talking about how there's some promise in, I guess, Batwing. I think is what it comes down to. I think they're saying, let's see, Mr. Fox learned precisely the lesson I'd hoped. His taciturn nature to face the narrative virus believes a certain inherent wavelength, rotten reality, yada yada. What comes may understand enough to stand with me. I don't know. So I don't know. Whoever's testing them thinks that Batwing is good enough, but says that Kate not so great because she's already seen bats, and so I don't know where that's gonna go. She's seeing bats in her nightmares and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's a bad thing. She also had a bunch of Batwomen, somewhat like Batman did. I would assume maybe the person from the future is, or whoever whoever's running the show behind the scenes, because there is a mysterious element to this Outsider book. Maybe it's Duke Thomas. Maybe we just learned. Maybe it's multiple variations of Duke that are trying to help Luke. At first, it was funny when I saw that. Cause again, I still think it's so dumb that they did it with Jace. When he said Duke Thomas, my brain connected it to Jace, because Jace was the Black Batman. And then this was Duke, and I always said that if you were going to make a Black Batman, you could have done Luke or Duke would have been the perfect characters. Jace is just this random ass character that came out of nowhere. And so my brain was like, oh shit, they're actually doing something with freaking Jace. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was like, that's not fucking Jace. And so, yeah, I thought that was ridiculous. Again, another reason why the Jace character sucked. Like, there's just no point in that character. It should have been Luke or Duke. Like, they made the most sense to be Batman. Like, I don't know. If they were going to go down, granted, they don't make the most sense if you're going out of all of the family members. Like, there is, I think, a freaking ladder of who should be Batman next. But, you know, if you were set on the Black Batman thing, freaking Luke and Duke were right there. So it made, it'll always be the dumbest thing for me, in my opinion. But that was the book. The books were good this week. I thought that was pretty cool. Outsiders is great, but it's also, again, it's Kelly and Langzing. Like, they're amazing. Like, they're badass. I think they should take over Batman. I hope they do, because they're writing some good stuff. And again, here's the thing, because I feel like sometimes when I'm talking about some of these books, people might hear my opinions and be like, you're just like overcritical. I just want things to make sense, man. Like, I can support the wacky and zany. I have no problem with it. Just make it make sense. Like, that's all I want. You can't just say Batman creates this thing and bada bing, bada boom. I'm like, well, how did he do it? Like, you know, give me the fucking, the A to the B to the C. You know what I mean? Where Zdarsky's just like fucking, because he's Batman. I'm just like, bitch, we have 80 years saying that he can't do this, and you just said he can? Like, you know what I mean? And so I think it's really weird. But, again, you give me space, timey-wimey bullshit. Oh, like, yeah, they went through a portal and it sent him to this weird parallel dimension where there's all these different Batman that meet. And, like, you know, I can believe that. You know what I mean? That makes sense. I like it. You know, I think that's cool. So, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of where that goes. But those boys are killing it. I love reading anything they write. They've been just writing a bunch of really awesome stuff. I'm excited for Dan Waters to come back, though. That's totally different subject. But he did Azrael. I think he's working on some stuff. I'm excited what he's going to do. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for probably another short podcast at this point. But I am just so defeated by recording for an hour, and it's just gone. So the Phantom Hour will now be known. That'll be now known as the Phantom Hour. Yeah, sucks, man. I answered all your questions and everything. So bad. Anyways, if you want to cheer me up, I'm going to have a new video later today on the new channel. If you're not subscribed to the new channel, go check it out. I've been putting out a lot of content. 2 to 3 videos a week, actually. Been kind of nice. A couple shorts with usually a long-form video. One thing I mentioned, oh my God, I went off on this thing too, and I'll probably forget. So I'll mention it here now. So if you're in the Discord, if you're listening this late into the podcast, I'm thinking about making a short about this video. I don't even know how I got on the topic. I went off on this weird tangent, which really fucking sucks. I went off on this weird tangent about how there's like a civil war going on in like I think it's a third world country. I forgot what country it's going on in. And there was a Batman and Joker with guns going throughout the streets. Like, there's literally this war going on, and people are taking over like newscasts as hostages and shit. And there's these 2 dudes that are dressed as Batman and Joker, and like, it's fucking crazy. I might make a short about it, but again, I had like this long rant about like crazy stuff like that happening and whatnot. Oh my God. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed what it was. You know, probably not the best one. My apologies. I got to come up with some safeguards for that not to happen again. I blame my dog. My dog went crazy. I had to go check it out. And I don't know why I hit mute on the mic for whatever reason, but I did. Anyways, that's it. As always, I'm your host, Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome.